And, all right, we're live. Live there.
So I've only been in Santa Cruz for a week and I've managed to ruffle some feathers already. Because we were told that we were going to an event that was pro Palestine that had nothing to do with politics. Yet it was at a county building and everybody that went up to speak mentioned Jim Panetta and how terrible he is. In fact, they even had literature being handed out and they...
What, baby girl? What are you doing up there, huh? Lulu, lemon, just your fluffy belly, fluffy tummy, just your fluffy tummy. Yeah, just your fluffy tummy. Easy does it. I love you too, baby girl. She's a pretty girl. Pretty Lulu. I love you, Lulu. Do you love her papas? She loves her papas. Yes, she does. I love you too. Damn. You got cold nose. You do. You got cold nose. Purrs, purrs. I hear that fluffy, fluffy tummy. Fluffy, fluffy baby. She's just a fluffy baby. Yes, her is. Fluffy baby. Too fluffy baby? Yeah? Yes, you are. I love you. Listen to the purrs. I hear them. Yes, I do. All right. Forget Instagram. This guy. No Blue Sky. Facebook. I'm already on Facebook. Instagram. Oh, X. X. That's what it is. Okay. Right. All right. Oh, can I go live on TikTok? Nobody's here.
Just woken up to some terrible news on the flotilla. Yo, it's Yusuf and I'm going to Gaza. We were leaving Barcelona with 24.
Nobody. Live.
I agree and I disagree, if that makes sense. I think we do need a change. We need to represent more people. But I also think that we have to acknowledge that if we're talking on a social issue, I believe Democrats have done a little more than Republicans. I'm not saying that they're perfect, and they're definitely part of the system. I've been fighting with my state party the whole time I've been running, but I also think that under Democratic leadership, we've got the right to gay marriage. We've had more social things that have improved. And those are really important to someone like me who identifies with a lot of those. And especially in the disability sector, with the Republicans demonizing autism right now and treating us like we don't deserve to be spoken. The run was, I had already launched my campaign, but as soon as RFK Jr. started talking about his views on autism, I got really angry. And that's part of why I'm fighting. So I agree with you that this system doesn't work and that we do need to represent more American people. But I wouldn't be so quick to completely dismiss the Democratic Party.
So here's what I see. Okay, this is why I feel the way I think. If the Democrats win, we veer to the left. When the Republican wins, we veer back to the right. But we don't change anything at home. Except we're going to keep going backwards. And the problem with the red and the blues is we got the red in charge, the blue's not happy. If the blue got in charge, the red's not going to be happy, and we're not going to unite the American people. That's why I'm trying get people to understand we can't keep voting for these two-party systems because it's not what's for the American people. You can be a Republican, you can be a Democrat, Libertarian. It does not matter to me. What matters to me is that I want to fight for all Americans by not saying I'm going to only push the blue agenda or the red agenda, but I'm going to push the agenda for the American people. And if you watch my life, you clearly see a lot of my plans are both on the red and the blue side because I think that's what it will take to join the people together.
So that's why my campaign colors are purple and green, because purple mixes the red and the blue, and the green is the growth that we need. My entire platform, when I'm running for Michigan's 7th Congressional District, Tennessee Tom Barrett, is to get the voters of the Democratic Party to bully the party left. Right now, we need universal health care, we need shelter, food, and medicine, because all three of those are health care. And every time I go out and I do a public speech, especially at the Democratic county meetings that happen every month, Bingham County, Shiawassee County, Clinton County, Eaton County, there's like 7 counties in my district, and I've been trying to meet the voters in every single one, repeating the message over and over again. If the Democratic Party actually gets their rear together in the midterm elections, we get enough progressives into the House and Senate, we can make universal health care, shelter, food, and medicine a constitutional amendment. And with that supermajority in Congress, Trump can veto it all he wants. Not going to work. But the only way that this is going to happen is when we have strong, unified messaging across the entire.
What happened?
Y'all are so sweet because you have got to be the nicest country on earth to stop your very much needed protest and wave at a tourist bus and be like, hi, this is just screaming, we are mad, we are very mad, but not at you.
Hey, this is Oliver Larkin.
Come on.
And that's why the Democratic Party has lost voters for 50 years, because polite politics doesn't resonate with knuckle-dragging, hard-working men that need to be talked down to because that's the only way they know how to operate.
Yes, I mean, it sucks, but you're a man saying that, yes, because it's just men have fought to not be emotional and just be hard, like you said, so we just kind of, have to bully.
Straight up. Like,
They
you have to
don't
bully
like
them.
it when I bully them, because
That's where you have to double down, and you have to use the misogyny back against them. They go, sweetie, are you getting emotional?
I know I do it. It's so much fun. And
It's the best.
Theory. I'm like, can you explain the nose ring theory? I'm like, what? That I have daddy issues? Yes, I do. I'm like, my dad.
Do your kids talk to you? That's what I thought.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you all just know how to call it out, right?
I'm like, thank you. Do you want to love me? Okay. I did a forum with my opponent this last Thursday.
Come
And
on.
I wrote out my answers, and I continued to keep my message on point no matter what he said. And everything I said caused an emotional reaction from him. He literally started yelling at the audience at one point about how dangerous I am and all of these things. And it made him look so crazy. And I never engaged with him at all. It was great because people were like, you were so like composed and stuff. And I was like, yeah, because we're given specific questions to answer. I'm going to answer those specific questions. I don't care what he has to say. I care about what we can do to make things better. I'm like,
And the only thing you can reply with, all right, is be like, hey, this is all the more proof that Zach needs therapy.
God, yes.
You know what's funny? People ask me all the time, are you afraid to debate any I'm not a politician. I'm not a great speaker. I'm just an ordinary guy that worked an entire life working.
Oh,
And I said, I'm not afraid to debate Ben because I think I would beat him. And that's precisely because of what Hayes has said. I'm going to give my message, and I'm not going to talk to them because the message is going to.
Unfortunately, I am not pretty enough to be considered a hot mess. However, I do identify as a room temperature inconvenience.
Yeah, I think that's why
Unfortunately, I am not pretty enough to be considered a hot mess. However,
to what the other person says, and then the questions that people actually want answered never get answered, or if they get answered, they're like half answers, and then immediately switch over to the emotional side of the debate. I did speech and debate in high school.
forget it. I guess, Mom.
Right. 3 minutes, dang clock. So let's see, Anthony. What keeps happening to you?
Well, he's my co-host.
Come back.
Dang.
Hey, everyone.
Maybe he feels bad because the guy is outnumbered related.
A few technical issues over here
So,
on this one.
Anthony, I don't know what's going to happen with Randall.
Oh, if he's not here, he's not here. I can moderate if you want.
No. Okay. Well, I think we're just gonna have.
Or if you want to go,
discussion.
you want to do. Yep. Uh-huh.
All right.
All right.
So there's another person from Michigan that I invited. His name is Poole, Poole, and he's a CNC machinist, and he's running for Michigan's 9th congressional district up in the Thumb area. So that's
Well,
definitely red district.
Make sure he comes down and he can join us.
Oh yeah, I texted him. He's probably still sleeping.
Sleeping. Hey, anyway,
There's a lot of time
let's
zones here.
Get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's town hall. I want to thank each of you for taking the time to join us, because this is not just another meeting; it is a chance for American people to speak, to listen, and to build something new together. Too often we've been divided into red, blue, left, or right. But today we will set that aside. Here we are simply Americans, concerned about our future, our family, and about the generations that will follow us. Our goal is simple: to unite the voices from every corner of the nations, not to argue over who is right or wrong, but to focus on solutions that works for all of us. We're here to build a movement that transcends parties and put people first. Together, we will chart a new path forward, one built on unity, responsibility, and hope. So, Anthony, if you want to be the moderator,
Okay.
and then pick each of them to introduce themselves.
Oh yeah, we'll just start at the top of the screen there. Hayes for Lynchburg. Go ahead and introduce yourself, where you're from, what district you're running in, and a little bit about yourself. 3 to 5 minutes.
My name is Risa Hayes. I am running in House District 52 in Virginia, which is Lynchburg City and a little bit of Campbell County. I started my campaign back in October, and one of the big reasons I am running is because I want to give voice to people who have been ignored by the system traditionally. I am openly autistic. I have listened to political people talk about what my community needs and what we need in order to thrive in this country, and they've never asked us what we want or what we think we need. There's a continual perpetual narrative that autistic people cannot speak for ourselves. There are organizations that claim to speak for us, but again, we are never asked. And my community isn't the only community that experiences this. So my goal is to act as a conduit to be the voice for people who don't have a voice.
Thank you very much, and appreciate that. Shelby, next.
Okay. Hi, I'm Shelby Campbell. I'm running for Michigan's 13th Congressional District. And like you said, I'm running to advocate for the ones that don't get heard. You said that like it's your community that doesn't. I've worked in an assembly line. I've worked in a kitchen, like an office. I think no one is listened to. Like literally, because I worked in all those different fields. And when I was in law school, they laughed about it being hot in the factory because we were learning how it can only be like 80 degrees. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how that works. That's a joke. They're like, oh, call OSHA. And I'm like, they're in the factories. So, you know, it's just a really big disconnect from all worlds. And I really think that we need to, instead of doing arbitration with labor, one of my big issues is labor. I'm a third generation automotive worker. One of my issues is labor. I think we need to bring back, or not bring it back, put the like systems together, the court system. Not with arbitration, I feel like is to keep it separate so people in the public don't actually know what is going on. Because all union stuff, it normally ends with arbitration, and that's to keep it out of the courts. So kind of why I'm running. I'm a big labor person, and my last name's Campbell, so Campbell County. So that's why it's Soup for Change, and I have like a little Campbell Soup sticker, and then Campbell's already emailed me and was like, cease and desist, and I was like,
Of course.
I was like, it's my last name. I'm like, nobody's misinterpreting my can for your can of soup. It's a sticker. So I'm ready to fight big corporations already. I said, haha, sue me.
No, you should have said soup me.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Elian?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Yes, it's Elion. So I'm running for Michigan's 7th Congressional District on seat Tom Barrett. My primary focus is healthcare. Shelter, food, and medicine are all healthcare. We've got a lot more ideas other than that. We need to end our failed drug war. We need to build the Hyperstate Project, a national high-speed rail that will put young men to work and teach them careers and allow them to build homes and families. We need to ban congressional stock trading by having people get elected to office that don't have stocks. Weird how that works, right? We need to have a technology bill of rights so we can have some rules around our data privacy. I work in IT, so you would kind of want people that work with technology to be writing some rules around technology, because the enshittification of the internet has actually become a term in the dictionary now. Enshittification, it's in the dictionary. You can look it up. They just added it. So specifically because everything on the internet sucks now with subscription plans and AI and your data always being sold. And after it's sold, it's done in a data breach, so your identity gets stolen on top of it. We're living in a clown show, and me being kind of the joke candidate here in Michigan, there's 6 other contenders running for this district. Bridget Brink is the former ambassador to Ukraine. You should check out her campaign video. I'm doing like, hey, go to Bridget Brink's website, bridgetbrink.com, and watch her campaign video and see if she's fit to run for Michigan's 7th Congressional District. She'd be a great ambassador to Ukraine. Probably not the best person to represent this district when people need health care. Because what's happening here, 2026 and 2027, Medicare and Medicaid cuts are passing. And so old people are going to be told, you need to go to work if you want health care. And I used to do wheelchair repair for Medicare patients. So it's just kind of like, hey, I don't really think that people that are in wheelchairs should be working, especially if they're elderly and sick. You know, maybe the cruelty might be the only point of the Republican Party. So in my campaign, I'm not asking for donations, because if we need to get money out of politics, why do people keep telling me it takes $2 million to win my district? I think that's laziness on not only the part of the people running for office, but the voters themselves. And so if the voters truly want things like universal health care and high-speed rail and to ban insider trading from Congress, then it's going to be up to the voters to put our campaigns out there. It's going to be up to the voters to spread the word every single day to their friends, family, and coworkers, because they need to be the digital billboard for us. We don't need to be paid to buy a billboard. If you want it, you be the billboard, because only you, the voter, can progress the party forward. And that's why I'm running as a Democrat, to light a fire under kids' asses.
Thank you very much. Seth Harper, our neighbor, go ahead and give us an introduction, please.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I appreciate the time and consideration. For 3rd Congressional District, which encompasses all the way up from the Georgia border all the way down through Ocala, Florida, 12 counties in all. The current incumbent is Kat Kamick. Background on me, for the last 30 years, I've been in broadcasting, whether it was political news talk show hosting, where I got my start in Kalamazoo, Michigan at WKZO Radio, or the last 5 years, 5.5 years, almost 6, I was in charge of ESPN Greenville, the Gator Radio Network. I taught public speaking, hosting, podcasting at the University of Florida, and cannot be on the air, cannot work in media and run for public office. So now I am a 7th grade civics and history teacher as I run for office. I unveiled my platform over the course of the summer. It's called 13 Stripes of Strength. Everything and the theme of the campaign is reestablishing American stability. Starting off with the first notion was Social Security stabilization, all the way through the gambit of freshwater Florida, school lunches, healthcare, the whole entire 9 yards, everything's in there. We pretty much cover every big issue that the voters want, the voters say that they want. Every polling data shows us that people are interested in. Our party is always at its strongest when it is a party of the people, whether it's FDR's New Deal, Harry Truman's Fair Deal, the New Frontier for President Kennedy. When our party is the strongest, Democrats in Congress are creating legislation. The president is signing off on that legislation. It is being passed. And unfortunately, President Biden did give us the Infrastructure Act, President Obama, obviously, the Affordable Health Care Act, but we haven't had a cohesive group think message up and down the ballot for the better part of a decade plus. The Republican Party was a party of bad ideas, but at least their ideas, our ideas have been that side is bad for the last decade, and that's why we've lost over the course of this decade. So I laid that structure out over the course, I said, of the summer, and we're off and running here. It's an exciting time. It is a treacherous time, but it's a necessary time, and it's there's no sitting this one out, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one that is everything. And as our nation celebrates its 250th birthday, it does hang in the balance. It does at this point. So it'll be interesting to see how, not only here, but throughout the nation, this plays itself out with gerrymandering over the course of the next, 14, 15 months. So that's just a little bit about myself. And of course, anybody that's listening or consuming this, you can check everything out, SethHarpForCongress.com. That's Seth Harp, like the musical instrument or the beer, SethHarpForCongress.com.
Just so you know, TikTok really funny about words. So when you use the BEE word, that could trigger a warning from TikTok.
The what word? What word did I use? Oh, okay. Okay. I know what you said. Okay. I got you. Just like the DRU word, is a trigger for TikTok to put down my line. So you gotta be careful about what words you use. And I'm trying to.
I almost have an account ban, so help a girl out, I'm bad. I don't even say anything that bad. I just talk shit back, and then apparently I go out.
Right.
I feel special. I don't even have a single mark against me. I'm doing great.
I don't know. I'm hated. It's okay.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for everyone for being here. My name is Anthony Zaribas. I want to thank all of you for being here, as well as our host for hosting this town hall, number 22. We're showing up when others fail. A little bit about myself. This is my second account. And so far, things have been going well and smooth. I am Anthony Zaribas from Florida. I'm the only candidate that is from the state that is running in this district at this time. I grew up here. I've had the opportunity to live across the country briefly with my work. In California, Wisconsin, Connecticut, Alabama, back here to where my roots are, here in Florida. We continually hear the same 3 issues when we talk to voters 6 months out now. It's been a repetitive process. They always say the same 3. It's housing, healthcare, and immigration. And a lot of people. We have legislation, we have bills, 6 pieces of legislation that we want to propose once we do take the seat back. It's a little different here in Florida as far as running. It's me or the multimillionaire 10-term congressman at this point until August next year, when they will know who the other person is, if it is a 3-way race. None of us want that. That just hands the seat right back to the congressman. It is a repetitive candidate here locally who's running again that's ran in 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. The voters are clear. They do not want her as a challenger. We would love to have her in our administration as a policy advisor, and that door is certainly open, and we would like to have all of us collaborate to give this seat back to the people of District 16 here. So that's our winning strategy, and we look forward to meeting with her this Wednesday as well. Like I said, we have a reference to the high-speed rail that Ilion had mentioned also down in the chat too. A lot of people don't know that Japan, our friend, offered to front the money for a national high-speed rail, and both parties said, no, we got this. Pretty much. They didn't word it like that, but they said no. And that would have created a lot. They said, well, here's the money. You can use our technology. You can use your workers, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. And they said no. So what we have now is a little piece in California, a little piece here in Florida, and most nations, Spain, Norway, France, Germany, they all have this and have had it since the late 70s. That's just a snapshot of how our government works. So again, you can thank you for having me, and yield back the floor.
I'm going to introduce myself, but I invite Go Big up. Go Big is a really tough person, you guys. I'm going to tell you right now.
The question, so
that's right. I mean, he literally ripped me apart the first day. Like, he went to talk to me. And people have said to me, kick him down. He's being disrespectful. But I wouldn't kick him down. But, I mean, he's a great supporter of mine now. But what he did not know is that this is when I first started running for president. Is that my dad said, son, you've got to learn to tolerate people. We need to practice that. So, Go Big Go was my practice. But
I great supporter. The test by which you must tolerate. If you can tolerate me, you can tolerate anybody.
That's right. So anyway, I'm going to introduce myself. Then Go Big Go. We're going to let Go Big be the moderator. That way we can all think. And I think you understand, Go Big, that there's rules that we're trying to answer questions within a time limit, so we all have time to talk. Great. Anyway, so my name is William Hunt. I'm from North Pole, Alaska. I've lived in North Pole for 45 years, and I'm running for president of the United States, even though on Tuesday I have an interview with the Tyree chapter for the union about endorsing me for a congressional run for the state of Alaska. I'm thinking about running for the state house, and my district is the entire state. So you just pick a spot. We've only got one representative, so that's what you get. Anyway, my whole agenda is about not the red or the blue agenda, but about the American agenda. What can we do to make sure that your great-grandchildren have a future, a better future than you have? So everything I look at is how it will affect them. And I don't agree that the Republican has a bad agenda. They have a great agenda that has bad implementation of that agenda. And the Democrats are the same way. They have a good agenda, but don't always implement it the same right way. I believe in health care for all. I believe that Social Security needs to be fixed because I think that will help your great-grandchildren. I believe that we need to look at how we go ensure that young people will have work in the future with AI and robots. I mean, it's all about the future generations is what I'm all about. I've been a Santa for 18 years, and so my whole life has always been about children, especially since my first daughter was born. It's always been about children. And so that's what my whole agenda is about. I also make life better for the great-grandchildren. Go Big.
All right, excellent. So
I'm going to try and keep things moving. My goal is to get as many questions out as possible to cover a wide range of topics. I don't have anything prepared, so it's going to be all off the cuff. And any feedback you have as we go along, we appreciate it. I guess I would start. We're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about high-speed rail and everything from California. You know, the project there is having some problems. So we know that our relationship with Japan has sort of been tried a little bit, and then we also have what happened with the Koreans when they came over for their plant. They were going to have a Hyundai plant out here that was going to train Americans, and Trump sent them all back after arresting them all. Do you think that our presence, our image on the world stage is diminished by all these sort of immigration policies that we're implementing? And if so, how do you think we go about repairing that image or improving it? And we will start with Elias, please, if you could.
Yeah, I'm of the very firm stance that immigration is what made America great, and white privilege is what destroyed it. So if we want to repair international relations with countries like China and Japan and South Korea, what we need to be doing is getting the voters to get these bad people out of office. Unfortunately, the Republican Party has gone 10 toes down on Project 2025 with nationalism and isolationism. If you listen to Stephen Miller, who is currently running the White House, that's exactly what his entire goal is and his entire plan. And unfortunately, we don't see an adequate response from the Democratic Party of how do we challenge this nightmare of an administration. So what we need to do as candidates for the Democratic Party is really lock in on our messaging with a core unification of, hey, we can build something greater, but we're going to have to work together. And while Republicans are focused on tearing everything down and isolating us from the rest of the world, when the rest of the world is trying to help us out, we should be working together with them. As somebody that works in construction, I do the low voltage, but if the ceiling guys aren't done, then I can't do my job. So we all are in this construction site of a planet together, and we all got to put on our gloves, get some calluses on our hands, and work together to get this thing going. Because right now it's stalled, and the cart is being pushed before the horse, and we're all in a clusterfuck because of it.
And so, really, what would you think? Democrats have had years to put something together, and they just have faltered on all fronts. What do you think is their major stumbling block to get something? They have nothing to present. They have no platform really to present to the American people right now what they want to do. The bipartisan sounds great, but how do you? What are you?
Bipartisanship is how we got here, because they kept working with the Republicans who are chopping us at our ankles the entire time we're trying to move forward.
And so you say you want them to take a bold direction, a bold move in a direction, right?
Democrats have been reactionary for 50 years. They have never been proactive with anything, not once.
Affordable care, I think.
No, that was reactionary.
The compromises towards it were, yeah. So you want them to be proactive to what end?
Do you understand that the Affordable Care Act was written by Mitt Romney, though?
Yeah, it was Romney before Obamacare, yeah.
So was that Democrats that got that, or was that Republicans?
Well, it certainly wasn't Republicans, because the way that they campaign against it so hard.
But do you understand that's how the game is played to keep us divided?
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, I understand the divisiveness and all that. We'll get into sort of some of the...
But that's exactly how the game is played, though, by the Democratic Party. Is they pretend to be bipartisan and everyone loses as a result, because the Republicans are 3 steps ahead. They plan with the policy, they spin up the media echo chamber, and then the voters fall for it every time.
Well, that's what I think of a more recent invention of the Republican Party, because they weren't always that.
They weren't always this evil.
Yeah. I would say I wouldn't call them evil, but they're definitely more organized, I think, this time around. This Trump administration than the last one. They're more organized.
When I worked at Kellogg's corporate headquarters, there was a veteran there that had to be escorted out of the room because he started violently screaming at me that I suggested that we make sure that every child receives a good meal in this country.
Yeah.
In the headquarters. Kellogg's headquarters.
This really does mar our image, I guess, internationally. But I want to get some other opinions. Anthony, what do you think about our international standing?
Well, I think it's It's like something that reads out of the Enquirer magazine next to the grocery store line there.
It just feel like an alternate universe sometimes.
It does. These other free nations, unless we're not going to do freedom anymore, we're just going to go with what we have. As Leon says, a lot of these issues weren't even. I mean, I want to say that they were pushed by outside organizations, unions, the 40-hour work week, healthcare, forcing the party to act. It's like the like Elian has said so much also, and I agree with him. The two parties, they want to keep us divided, and there's stagnation there. And it's been that way for 58 years. I can say that my life has not gotten better, no matter who's in charge. And there's only these two choices. It seems they put up so many barriers to keep other. It's like they're suppressing and censoring any other political party. And again, if we're not going to do freedom anymore, come out and say it. That's my answer to both parties at the top, and it's seeping down locally a bit. But come out and say it. Be honest with the American people, and say we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to have suppression. There's only going to be two parties forever. This is how it's going to be. I'll have a little more respect for you because you're being honest of what we do have. Like I said, for 58 years, we saw it in '91 with Ross Perot. And we see it constantly with any other political party that tries to get in. And then they have these locally, the state has put in place for the Democratic primary to take place 90 days prior to the election. Mathematically, that's not going to happen. First of all, the voters don't even know who the candidate is on that side here in Florida. And you have a 10-term multimillionaire congressman that's been there over 20 years. That's just not going to happen.
Do you think that is it generally the opinion of everyone on the panel right now that it's sort of you're really craving some innovation? You're looking for something that's new and bold, something that's different because you're kind of tired of what you've been given, the options that you have. Danny, is that pretty much the general?
So you gotta, like, for anyone that isn't a regular viewer of my content, when you have some free time, just look at my page. That's all you have to do. You don't even have to watch anything. Just look at it and see how different of a candidate I am.
Same. I'm just doing everything that's not ordinary. Like, I want to advocate for everyone that is not heard. Like, sex workers, they deserve rights. Like, I just saw there was this case in our county where it said this woman said somebody raped her in a porta potty, but when we find out, no, the man kept sex with her and didn't pay.
We can't use that word in TikTok.
SW. Sorry, yeah.
Or the R word, the RA word. We can't use that either. So yeah.
See, like, why can't I talk? Not at you. It's just crazy. TikTok does that when it's literally education, talking about the case. So I'm not at you. But okay, so if that wouldn't have happened if it was just legal, because she had to lie and say that so that somebody would take her serious. But then it's backlash in the community where they're saying, oh, she ruined a man's life. Oh, he should have just paid. That's like burglary. Robbery. Like, it's just not right on both ends. But if you look at the issue, it's just because it's illegal and looked down on, even though it makes the world go round. And before, like, the 1400s, it was, or I think, like, the Catholic Church or whatever. I don't remember exactly when it was. But it just all changed. So, yeah, I'm very out there, and I just want to advocate for everyone that gets shamed when they don't deserve it.
Interesting. Okay. It's definitely a different perspective than I was expecting. So.
Exactly.
We're going to jump right into
you wouldn't expect it.
Yeah. I mean, I welcome the difference of opinion. Ms. Hayes, how do you feel about our international image?
So, I actually have an interesting perspective. I grew up in California, although I lived in Virginia for the past 11 years. And when I was a kid, we could cross into Mexico and back without a passport. We had little, like, on the border, there were, like, little festivals and stuff, flea markets where we could purchase stuff in the U.S., stuff in Mexico. And those were some of my favorite memories as a kid. We went in and, like, I got to have direct experience with Mexico's culture and food, which, by the way, I think they do better food than us, so don't hate me. But when we started locking things down and we started requiring passports, we started creating this barrier between people and labeling good as good for the U.S. and the other as bad because they're Mexican. And that has gone throughout the entire country, and it is not just limited to one demographic anymore. It's anyone who isn't born in the U.S. is now being labeled as an enemy. And I don't agree with that. I've actually spoken fairly recently to some people who are here on visas. They don't want me to like name them or to show them on my page, which is fine. But one of the things they told me is it can take over 6 months to have their visa renewed, but there's a time limit between when their visa ends and when it renews, to the point where a lot of them over exceed their visa, not because they meant to, but because they're still waiting on the government to approve the renewal. It's already creating a problem. So people that are, quote, undocumented, most of them came here on visas and have been trying to follow the system and trying to follow the rules, but they can't because the government is so slow and it continues to fight against its own interests. So I am a strong believer that we should either find a way to speed up the current system, because if this is how people want it to be, they want it to be on visas, then we need to speed it up. And we need to be able to renew visas at a faster pace. Or I'd like us, my personal opinion is I would like us to go back to having looser borders, because we can have better trade between Canada and Mexico and the countries that are around us. And I think this demonization of immigration is anti-American, because we are the melting pot. We always have been, and I want to learn from other cultures and take the best of every culture and bring it here. You know, Finland has better schools than us. Let's take their school system. Sorry.
Mr. Harp, how do you feel about more open borders in terms of flowing immigration between Mexico and the United States?
No, we tried that. Look, you know, when I say common sense solutions for uncommon times, we do need immigration. Absolutely. About 16% of our GDP is courtesy of people on visas, people that are undocumented workers. We have seen an influx in the cost of beef, the cost of apples, the cost of goods, vegetables, produce. It's up because the labor force has been, unfortunately put into a position where now we must, as consumers, compensate for the lack of a workforce. You see this with unemployment figures going up and the lack of jobs being added. So immigration is important for those jobs, but open borders are dangerous. They are. I am one of these Democrats that I believe in the Statue of Liberty. I believe in Ellis Island. I believe in the huddled masses yearning to be free, but we have to be smart about it and we have to be articulate about it.
William, how do you feel about open borders? Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
If you do a quick Google search, it says it's between 3 to 5% of the GDP. So you just inflated that by like 10%.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about with the cost of inflation. You cannot just open that floodgate.
Why? Have we ever tried that? I feel like a border is just a line. Like, we should all be able to travel everywhere. The country and the world is beautiful. So
I can counter that with actual numbers.
A lot of the immigration problems we have right now stem from the 1996 immigration reform bill that Clinton put in. We had the borders that were pretty open in the 80s, and then there was the amnesty that was granted to the immigrants that were here, and then the built up to the 96 immigration reform bill. That's where the backlog started. So before that, we had pretty open borders.
Guys, look, with this, and we talk about free trade NAFTA. NAFTA was a bad thing for the United States.
That's trade. We're not talking about trade. We're talking about people.
So you're just going to let people walk into the country?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's literally land.
One at a time.
You don't let people walk into airports too?
I mean, we are going back on that. It was literally one incident, and that happened in 2001. We are going back on that. Maybe not in your state, but in Michigan we are.
You're just going to let
Dude, not everybody's bad. If we keep labeling everybody as bad, that's how everybody is going to be. Spread love, not hate. Just because somebody's brown or in a different country, my baby daddy, my father of my child is a brown man, and his family came from Mexico.
Hello, Bug.
So please tell me how they're bad people.
Yeah, we just
I can go off anytime.
back on.
How about in a half hour?
All right.
I can get dressed.
Camera's on. Looks like.
Something that was so
I understand. I was alive and at home that
I
day.
just let you know the mic is off,
Yeah, no.
except for on these.
Yeah, that's why I'm talking to you.
Want to chime in here?
So I'll get dressed.
So you guys,
All right.
In about half an hour.
All right. Sounds good.
not trying to
I love you.
overtalk other people.
Wow.
It's really hard to figure out who's talking and who's saying what.
Really, if
We tried to have a civil dialogue here. So when it comes to my immigration policies, I believe that we need a secure border. I don't believe we need a wall, but we need to make sure it's secure so that people who once come in to improve their life, they're welcome with open arms. But if they're falling third items, we don't want them in here. We don't need them. That's where my secure border will be. It just stops that. I believe that we should be able to travel between the United States and Canada with no problems. It's easy for a secure border between them because we're pretty much bordered by the United States. But when it comes to the Mexico side, when I was young, we could travel to Mexico and come back. The people in Mexico come into the United States and go back. Even the
I'm not really sure it's fair to differentiate between the northern and the southern border like that, though, in terms of how porous they are. Let's go to Alien first, and we'll get into in a minute. I'm going to start using the timers here and see if that helps keep everyone sort of on track.
Appreciate that. So when it comes to immigration, what we have in America right now is a population crisis coming in the future. We have groups that are aging, and we have young people that aren't having as many children as what previous generations have had. And this is a problem that is going on worldwide. And so the solution isn't to make more babies, like the right wing has been promising that they're going to do, which is Project 2025. The way we fix this problem is through immigration. When you have low population growth through low birth rate, the only way you can fix it is through immigration. My mom's side of the family came to America in 1911. And when my great-great-great-grandfather showed up as a Russian refugee from Poland with a Polish identity, the customs officer at Ellis Island said, name, wife's name, children's names, country of origin, where the fuck are you going? He said, Wisconsin. They said, have a great life in America. And that's why I'm here today.
Anyone else want to chime in on immigration and border?
I would like to chime in on the border. I only have a few minutes. I'm here at the hospital with a friend of mine, but I got a minute. Listen, the border situation, anyone that's upset about all those people that are coming here needs to take a real good, clear look at the privilege we've lived on upon the exploitation of these countries in South America and Central America. All the sugar, all the coffee, every little bit of every privilege we've had as Americans comes directly from the exploitation of these people to the extent to where they no longer have the ability to live in their homes in their own countries that are much more beautiful than ours. People don't want to leave the jungles and beaches of South America to walk for 6 months to end up in the deserts of Mexico for the possibility of becoming an American citizen. For the possibility. And all they're trying to do is come here to get a better life upon everything we've taken from them. So if you want to start talking about, we need to control the amount of people coming in from there, you need to control the amount you're consuming. Okay? Because you've taken everything from them. And I've taken everything from them. Until we take that accountability, there's no real conversation.
And Anthony, you do want to chime in on the order?
Yeah, I just want to say our policy is this: if you're here, you stay. I don't even care how you got here. Our nation, we have a big ass statue somewhere, I think up north, that says literally, "We welcome all." That is what we're founded on, and we should continue. People that say you come in the right way, you mean like the Pilgrims or our founding fathers on a ship? Is that what you mean? You came here for a better opportunity. That should be our foundation of making a nation great. And we're not going to separate any kind of, even if you get in trouble with the law and we have you in custody, you're not a threat to the population. We have you. We're not going to separate you from your family. That's just inhumane. We're not going to pay. The government's going to pay to house you if you're incarcerated. I would much rather have my tax dollars pay for you to keep you here than to pay a foreign nation. And so if you're here, you stay. That's our policy, pretty much.
We're going to shift gears here a little bit, I think, and move on to something that I think is also important to a lot of people. The checks and balances between the different branches of the government right now seems to be non-existent in some regards. That the checks and balances against Congress or against the administration aren't really being fully leveraged, and so I just want to know what everyone's opinion is on checks and balances. Obviously, is a good thing in terms of power, but why do you think that recently we've had this sort of shift away from standard checks and balances to what we have now, the hybrid system, where Congress sort of lets the administration get away with a lot more, I think, than they ever have before in terms of constitutional power. And I'd like to start with Ms. Hayes.
So, when it comes to checks and balances, first we have to acknowledge that the executive orders for the president is completely inappropriate. The president wasn't designed to be putting out orders and controlling our laws that way. That's not how our system was designed. The second is we need to put in term limits for the Supreme Court, term limits for Congress, term limits for the House, the Senate. Everything needs a term limit because we have people who have been in those positions for decades, and they have changed the system to work for their interests only and not for American citizens. So if we do not put them in check and we do not start limiting how much money they can have, the no stock rule, I hope, passes, because we should not be making profit off of laws that you put in place. So we need to acknowledge that our system is falling apart because we are not requiring stricter rules for the people in those positions.
Absolutely. And William, I can't put a timer on you, but I'd like to get your input on that, sort of what you think about checks and balances.
So I think our check and balances is always felt the entire check and balance. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. If the Republican control, there's no checks and balances. If it was Democrats control, no checks and balances. And the whole system is designed so that the House should not trust the Senate, the Senate should not trust the House. That's why they have to work together. And then they neither should trust the president. And so that if the president does something wrong, they should be able to say that. But the worst part of the failure of the checks and balance system is the American people. We are the ultimate checks and balance because we vote every 4 years for these people. And so when we are failing to be the checks and balances, then we are failing America, we are failing the future generation. And so this is one reason why I'm trying to put the unity between all of us. Not that we agree with anything, we don't. We don't want to either, but we're willing to work together. That's when you get checks and balances.
All right. And, Shelby, can I get your input on the checks and balances, please?
How laws were implemented. The older generations wrote our case law, I think I did also. It makes the same thing. Laws became into play by taking the inheritance. When we established our court, we tried to be part of that. And we were like, oh, nobody else. So it came here, started this system, and it was from the beginning. What we want, and the rules, these other people were accountable. Like, it's different about what to do for the people. Politics is never about the people, it's about keeping those people in Congress.
Just as a side note, I'm having a little bit of a problem hearing you. But let's go to Anthony. Anthony, checks and balances.
There aren't any.
Can't hear you at all, Anthony. You're muted.
Whoops. Sorry about that. There are none. Checks and balances. We have lobbies, $40 billion every year going into 535 members of Congress every year. $40 billion of lobby money. We are governed, and the lobbies, I guess, hold our representatives accountable. That's across party lines since Citizens United. So there is no accountability. Part of that blame goes to the voters. Every year they elect and re-elect the same two candidates, whether they go in there and they vote specifically by the letter next to their name. It's almost like a psychological, well-learned, trained behavior. And part of that blame has to go to them as well, because in my 58 years, that's the way it's always been. So there is no accountability. As far as term limits,
One of our constituents had said, "Stop electing shitty candidates." Stop, you know, we don't term limits. I'm open to, but if you start voting differently, we don't really need them. These candidates that are in their 80s and 90s continually get reelected, and I am the youngest candidate running.
Your thoughts on checks and balances?
Yeah, you look back through the 249-year history of this country, and it works in ebbs and flows. It really does. It started off as under President Washington, the executive branch was enormously powerful, and then through John Marshall with judicial review in the early part of the 19th century, the Supreme Court became this monster of an entity, and it moves back and forth. Here's the fact of the matter when you get to this. As long as the Supreme Court is ceding power to the executive branch, as long as the Speaker of the House is ceding power to the executive branch, things are not going to change. Those three things are their own individual entities. That's why this works. When one of the entities looks at the other one and says, I relieve my power to you, or part of my power to you, you no longer have an equilateral triangle in the checks and balances. You don't.
I agree that it has to be some. There's an ebb and flow. It sort of feels like take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back and whatnot. I'm curious, Elian, what do you feel about checks and balances?
I'm with Team Jeffries, and I'm writing a strongly worded letter and doing nothing other than that. I'm done. Like, that's it. That's what the Democratic Party has done. They're not fighting back. They're laying over like abused dogs and whimpering with their paws in the air. Please don't hit me again. It's pathetic.
Yeah, I do feel it's a little bit underwhelming. And so I guess maybe we can move away from checks and balances over to something I think in terms of party politics. It's a
great transition for me. So I'll lead right into that. You want to talk about checks and balances and party politics? I drove all the way up to Baldwin, Michigan to the ICE facility that was a closed-down prison that they reopened in 3 months, and they crammed 600 people inside of there because they can, and nobody's stopping them. What is the cost of fascism? We don't have health care because we're opening up ICE facilities and locking immigrants up, and the Democratic Party is doing nothing to address it.
Hello.
It's actually going to talk
Come
about,
here.
I feel like we're really at a time in our country where everything is absolutely so divisive between Republicans and Democrats. And of course, we had the tragedy of unaliving of Charlie Kirk this week. And so it really seems that we're pitting each other against tribalism is at an all-time high. And I want to know what each of you would do to sort of maybe address that, and how you feel about politics being so polarizing. And I guess we'll start with Anthony because he has to leave at 12:30. So Anthony, you have 1 minute.
Okay, hold this 1 second. Sure. So when you do the timer and they pop in the big screen, when they're 1 minute up to date, the screen go back.
Yeah, automatically, yeah.
So we might explain that so that they're on timer. When the timer starts, they become the big sign.
Okay.
And then when they're 1 minute up, they go back to like we are now.
Yeah.
That way they kind of
I'm trying to keep an eye on round people up towards the end of that minute. But yeah, so when your box shrinks back down to the normal size, that means your time is up and you should really, finish your thought there. We'll come back to you if there's any additional thoughts about that. So we're going to talk about the divisiveness of party politics, and we're going to start. William, can we start with you, please?
So I am a strong advocate for every constitutional rights, and creating more laws against PQ is not the answer. We need to figure out what is the root cause of this problem. And that's what we really need to address. We need to get tougher on people who use PQs for those activities, but to create more laws to restrict our freedom or not freedom, I'm not for. I am for stronger laws against those who use it illegally. And I'm for stronger laws to figure out what is the root cause of that problem and address it that way. Because in the 50 years that we've been doing gun rights or PQ rights, it hasn't fixed the problem. I think we're fixing.
Come here.
Yeah. And so, Shelby, can we go to you for a minute about divisiveness of party politics?
I guess you were talking about Charlie Kirk. Like, it's sad that that happened, and I don't advocate for death, but seeing everybody, like, reaching so hard, trying to prove, like, what side it was, and, like, taking what I say, like, offensively, like, making me out to be killed, or, like, advocating for that, like, just, I think, you expect to happen. He was very vile with a lot of the things that he said. I don't advocate for it, but I'm seeing both sides reaching to try to blame one another. And it's like, it's about all of us. So you said putting more restrictions on gun laws won't help. So, I mean, there's not a blanket gun law. So I understand advocating for constitutional rights, but the Second Amendment was written when sorry, I don't know what I can say. We're like, we have to do that, muskets and stuff. So we just shouldn't have weapons in civilians' hands.
So 1 minute to party for your thoughts on divisiveness between parties.
The thing is that in the last, I think, like 30, 40 years, lobbyists invested about $80 billion into polarizing the parties as far to the farthest extremes that they can. Because the corporate institutions and the folks who have unilateral control over our government know that the greatest threat to their power structure is a unified people. So they've really, really radicalized each side. They've dragged people so far to the left and so far to the right that we will never meet in the middle. And the thing is, the way to address it at this point is like, we need to get big money out of politics. Big money is controlling almost everything. It's controlling the media, it's controlling the politicians, it's controlling what we're eating, what we're consuming. So to address the divide, we have to really address who's investing in the divide, because there's a huge amount of money invested into keeping us divided.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go for 1 minute to Anthony, please.
Divisive, yes, the divisiveness in politics. That's one of our core reasons why we're just we're foregoing a initial next to our name and going straight to the general election. One of the reasons also is start campaigning now. While in our technology era, you have to get the message out and get it out to a lot of people at a low cost for a long time. So and the toxicity that goes with that vote with this initial or that initial. We're not accountable to any corporate entity, and that's what political parties are. They're not government entities. They're more like corporations. And if you are against a corporation, there's two right there that take millions of dollars in lobby money and legislate by that. So we're heading straight to the general election. We hope the people accept our message. It's working out so far in our favor, and we are the current front runner.
Mr. Harp, your thoughts on the instance of this week?
Well, look, as a guy that used to be on the air for 30 years, it's scary. It's frightening. It is, a reflection of who we are. Let's face it, this young man, you've seen pictures now of him posing with firearms at the age of 7, 8 years old. So it's ingrained into our culture. And it's one of those things that, the assault weapons ban that was a bipartisan, an apropos question, right? A bipartisan piece of legislature with Newt Gingrich also there involved with it 30 years ago that passed, that was successful, that removed firearms from the streets. It worked. We've done it in the past. The divisive nature of this is going to make it more difficult. As we've talked about, the right is dug in with the Second Amendment. They opened the door. They opened the door about this. They took their black marker and they crossed out the word "not" on "shall not be infringed" 2 weeks ago when they talked about removing firearms with people that are transgender. So there is some leeway in terms of suffocating the Second Amendment at times. So as long as we work together and start talking about reasonable solutions, I believe there's a path in there, but it involves more listening than talking.
Yes, Ms. Hayes, your thoughts.
Yeah, so I want to focus on the divisiveness, not just the Second Amendment. Part of the reason my platform is the way it is because I focus on economic issues, which I believe everyone in the country is suffering under, except for the 1% that have hoarded the wealth. we need to talk about the difference between political issues and humanitarian issues. And that's where I think the divisiveness has occurred. We started politicizing people existing, and that started this huge divide with LGBTQIA rights, people of color rights. Sorry, my brain's a little tired. But all of these different people groups, we've created this demonizing thing when, frankly, the government shouldn't be allowed to tell you what you do with your body. They shouldn't be allowed to tell you who you love. They shouldn't be allowed to tell you any of these things. These shouldn't be political issues. These are humanitarian issues, and the politics should be about the economy at the heart of it.
And much along those lines, I think we're going to shift a little bit and talk about the deployment of government troops on U.S. soil. As it has happened recently in D.C. and L.A., and there's some thoughts about doing something similar in Chicago. How do you reconcile the Posse Comitatus Act and sort of these sort of recent deployments of troops to crack down on crime? And do you think that that's appropriate? And let's start with Eliot, please, for a minute.
Well, I'm a veteran of the Michigan Army National Guard, and what this is straight up fascism. You've got the balance of power that is completely unbalanced, and everyone is bending over backwards to allow the Trump administration to do what they do. And the reason why is because the Trump administration is doing nothing but lying and controlling the narrative, and Democrats, being the reactionary party, are doing not only a bad job of reacting, they're not even being proactive. So now, National Guard soldiers are being illegally deployed across the streets because the president lied about crime. And unfortunately, the narrative is being controlled by people like Charlie Kirk, who said stuff, the divisiveness in this country that creates the political rhetoric that gets people to think that we need the National Guard. He said, quote, "I can't stand the word empathy. Actually, I think empathy is a made-up New Age term, and it does a lot of damage. The right is responsible for the rhetoric. Charlie Kirk on mass pew-pew victims. We cannot allow them to emotionally hijack the narrative." And to quote it, to end the quotes, I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun pew passings every year, so that way we can have the Second Amendment to protect other God-given rights. And as the most offensive way to end it is when Alex Jones is tweeting out and crying on camera, "The left is now celebrating Charlie Kirk's brutal pew-pewing. Where are Charlie Kirk now?" And the reply was from David Hogg, because after the shooting at his high school, Alex Jones literally accused David and his friends of being paid government crisis actors that resulted in them getting thousands of death threats. And not only that, you had a current sitting member of Congress chase David Hogg down after that had happened.
So let's go to Anthony, and we're going to talk about the Posse Comitatus and how you feel about deployment of troops on U.S. soil.
I don't like it. I don't like the deployment of U.S. troops on U.S. soil. We have a police force. That's their job. Unless we're not going to do the freedom anymore, we're going to go more North Korean government, Cuban type government, and then I want you to come out and say that's what we're going to do.
How do you really reconcile that with there's been record low crime in D.C. lately over the way that they go unaliving or whatever? So it's bad, but yet it seems to be working.
Again,
how do you reconcile?
That's an issue for the local towns and their their local police departments or local law enforcement officers to handle that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a federal issue for the federal government to go and get involved in law enforcement of the states themselves.
Shelly, how do you feel about that?
I think it's ridiculous. Just putting more policing is not the right move. I think we need to, like Anthony said before, mental health is a very big issue. I believe the people that commit crimes genuinely have mental health issues. Like, you don't know how to control your emotions. So you hit somebody, like you don't have money.
Okay.
You have to
That'll be a half an hour. No, I said that's a half an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, I already told him.
Was still on the rise. So people not just beating their wives.
I love you.
And that's fine. That's not crime. So crime is down. Like, it just seems like, I don't know, why would we want more police? I'm watching it. Like,
more crime.
Fix the problem. Mental health.
Yeah.
Elliot, anything you want to say about this? Yeah.
Yeah, so I find it crazy that we have to spend millions upon millions of dollars deploying the National Guard to patrol the streets to prevent every single instance of crime, but we can't spend the equal amount of money to prevent every passing away from the inability to afford health care, from the inability to afford insulin, from the inability to afford food, from the inability to afford shelter. What is the cost of fascism? We're sitting here saying, oh, crime is down in DC because we have actual patrols running around like we're North Korea. But meanwhile, we can't figure out how to make sure everyone has shelter, food, and medicine in the first place, which, because of the lack of access to those, because we're fighting over those, that's what creates the crime in the first place. So we're going to spend 10 times as much just going with hammer and fist rather than doing any bit of preventable measures. And this is a problem with the core messaging from the Democratic Party and political narratives such as this.
Prevention doesn't sell, and it doesn't get people in the
9 times out of 10, prevention does more than anything to stop crime. If you give people access to mental health care, if you give them access to shelter, if you give them access to food, if you give them access to economic opportunity where they can work a successful job and put enough food on their table to feed their family and raise a family on a single income and have extra money left over so they can afford a fucking vacation at the end of it, you want to talk about systemic problems in this nation and crime. The crime is from the billionaire class fucking us all over.
Okay, and let's go to Mr. Hart. Do you have any?
It's to get us used to it, right? And we know what's going on here. And the problem with this is, it's obviously pinpointed in using particular states. DC was selected. Chicago was being selected. Talks about San Francisco. Talks about Memphis now. The problem with that is when you need it, when you need to use it in an instance where you need to go into a city, it becomes watered down. It's almost like the boy who cried wolf. Prime example, my sister lived in Boston during 13 years ago, 12 years ago, during the Boston Marathon bombing. Needed to use the National Guard during those 24 to 48 hours to track down the Tsarnaev brothers. Didn't know who they were at the time, but trying to track them down with tanks rolling down the street because we had no idea the depths of that terror attack at the time. The problem is when you use it for political engagements, you water down the necessary use for it in case of a terrorist attack.
William, how do you feel about Posse Comitatus deploying troops on U.S. soil?
I believe war should be seen out of the picture because it's a district and not a state. And so they have different guidelines. I do not think that we should use the military to police our people. The Constitution forbids that. I also think that when it comes to protecting the federal building, if we're in the middle of what they call peaceful protest, and they're destroying our federal buildings, I think that we have the right to protect just our buildings, not anything else.
If you don't think local law enforcement has it under control, or why would you ever want to call in sort of federal troops for that kind of stuff?
Well, if they are burning federal buildings or breaking glass or doing whatever they are destroying federal property, that's our property, and they don't have a right to destroy that property. If the state government does not protect it, then I think it's an obligation of the Congress and the President to step up to protect it.
Do you not feel like in LA that the buildings were relatively well protected, and that bringing in the military was sort of inflammatory?
When it comes, well, right now they're not in there protecting, in my opinion, not protecting federal property. They're in there policing. And that's where the problem really lies. There's a misconception that people in America they're not doing their jobs, they are policing. And I kind of agree with that. They should not be there policing. That's not their job. But the state wants help from the military, so they're going to have Congress or the President for help. And until then, it should pretty much be all of state political issues must not.
Right. Okay. Just a shift. You can share a little bit of this. Anyone that has any?
I didn't get a chance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Hazel, please.
That's all right. My big thing is, what is the cost of these quote lower crime rates? If we're policing people with the military, controlling them, it's not actually solving any issues. It's putting fear and terror into our citizens, and they're afraid to just live their lives, much less, quote unquote, commit crimes. I agree that we need to deal with the systemic issue, which is healthcare, fixing poverty. I grew up homeless as a child. That's still an issue today, even though I'm 30 years old. We need to be putting the money that is being spent on the military and investing it into housing for all, healthcare for all, making sure that grocery prices are affordable, holding corporations accountable for price inflations. If we did those things, we would see crime go significantly lower, because the only time we see massive amounts of crime is generally in poor neighborhoods, because they don't have resources, they don't have doctors for mental health issues, they don't have food to eat. If you don't have food to eat, how are you going to care about what the law is? You're going to steal what you need to feed your family. And I'm not against that. If you have to steal food to feed yourself, frankly, I think that's a problem on the system, and you should be locked up for it. I know that's a little controversial.
I mean, it certainly makes sense. Everyone has food should be a basic human right, and I think that America not signing on to that part of the UN Treaty of Human Rights is kind of suspect. I mean, the food should be a basic human right. It's just unfortunate that we don't see it that way.
Can I quit real quick? How much more does the billionaire class need before our lives will ever get better?
Oh, yeah. I am absolutely not standing for trickle down economics or anything.
No, I know. It's not me. It's for the audience.
Yeah. I really do think that at some point, how much money is too much money? Right? How many $1 billion yachts does one person actually use?
So, can we transition this into tax policy?
Sure. Yeah. In terms of tax loopholes, stuff like that, are we talking about tax policy? Or
30. So, how can the Democratic Party and Democratic candidates fix this?
Right. Well, I mean, that's really a $37 trillion question: is how do you get us out of debt? Is being in debt even necessarily a bad thing?
Yes.
We're segueing into tariffs and whatnot, but I think operational debt at the government level is operational profit for private citizens. So the government should run at a deficit. They're not there to make a profit, really. It's tough, right? So, where do you draw that line?
But with a profit, with surplus in our national budget, we can pay for great public works projects. We can't pay for anything when we're in debt. And that's the optics and the cuckery of the liberal mindset by the economic chokehold that we all have to live under this fascist regime of capitalism. Capitalism is a fascist system.
We are in debt now, and we still afford social programs. So
but we weren't before. That's the problem. Like, we as a nation, we're not allowed to go into debt. It was written in the rules, and then we changed the rules so that way we can't go into debt, so that way we can allow banks to profit off of our debt. And so what we have is we have the billionaire class hijacking the very economic model that our country is built upon, and we can't get anything done unless a bank can profit off of it. And I think that's just
banking in the Federal Reserve.
It's not just that. It's literally the fact that we have the debt in the first place. Debt is bad. I don't care. Anybody that says debt is a good thing probably should not be listening to the billionaire class that have fucked up everything. Because apparently the world is, what, $300 trillion in debt to who? The Decepticons? Clearly somebody fucked up on the math. Because who are we in debt to? Mars? Venus?
Each other.
Jupiter?
No. So you talk about, so the way that it works really in sort of macroeconomic scale is when you control.
The class makes the rules, and we have to play their game. That's what it is.
No. I don't necessarily think that that's true, but when you control the amount of money that goes into any sort of economic system, you can control the, if you inflate the dollar or whatnot, or the international currency, then debt becomes very cheap to have, and you can go ahead and borrow all you want.
And people lose their jobs as a result of that. Congratulations.
Not always. I think really a lot of the GDP is an increase in productivity, not necessarily paying off a certain number of
I think the most horrifying thing I ever saw when I worked at Kellogg's was when I was having to transfer over the domain from the secretary for the president of Kellogg's. And what she said to me was, oh, they're just numbers. They don't mean anything to me anymore. And I'm like, ma'am, those numbers are people's lives.
You are just straight up saying to me, those numbers that you see in the profits and the expenses and what people are paid, those don't matter. The people underneath you don't matter. And there's a social disrespect and irresponsibility that has come from the top down because people value money over what it means to be alive.
We got to welcome to Capricorn.
I wonder why everyone's tired of it.
Yeah, you guys quit.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Shelby.
You said the billionaires don't make the rules or right. Yes, they do. Have you studied tax law? I don't even mean to come at you like that, but I can go get my tax law book, and yes, they literally just rewrite it to whatever they need it to be. It sucks, and you don't know that until you're in class, and your teacher's like, "Yeah, this is cool, isn't it?" And she's intrigued because she's a black woman, and she's like, "Hell yeah, this is how the white men have been doing it all these years." Because it's the case law from literally when the country was started. It's crazy. It's literally just written by people, lawyers. So they only care about themselves. So
there are a lot of levers that economists can use to sort of change rates and flow money from one part of the economy to another.
No, it's literally just lawyers rewriting it every single year. They get a new tax code, and it's literally just the lawyers writing it. So that every year they rewrite the laws so that it changes to benefit the people who are paying them. And who's paying them? The rich people.
How do you fix that, though? How do you fix it?
You stop letting lawyers determine that. You should let the people have money and stop treating corporations as people. Why
the law that stops them from doing that is going to be people in charge.
Yeah, so that's why I have half of law school, and I'm going into politics now because I see it's just a bunch of buddies that are lawyers that just do everything to keep each other safe and in charge still. It's just to make people look good.
Anthony, how do you feel about tax policy? What we're talking about?
Tax laws. I don't think there should be. In fact, our platform and policy. If you are making up to $100,000, there is no income tax. We raise once again. We increase the tax on the ultra wealthy 600K or above. Again, we do this again because it's been done before. Even just temporarily. I don't like the government making permanent solutions because our problems aren't permanent once they're corrected. It's like we are in a relationship with corporations and our own government that's hostile. It's a financially abusive relationship. And once again, the voters continue to reelect these same people. Our tax policy is that we would raise that. I think they're taxed at 39% or 37% now. We bring that up to 50% immediately. And they won't even, this is fear tactic of they're going to leave. They're not going to leave. They're not going to pick up everything because that's a burden on them. And again, they won't feel that. We're going to use that money to bring up the ones on the lower end and alleviate some of the bills, some of our revenue. The revenue is just such a dumpster fire, and there's only three people to blame: the voters and the two parties, because that's all that we've had. They dug this huge dumpster fire. The revenue that the IRS currently brings in is $7 trillion every year. Now, both parties can't seem to manage that out of 535 members in Congress. We are already spending $1.9 trillion on healthcare. For another $2 trillion, we could cover everybody on our soil with free, not free, universal healthcare. So we're halfway there now. Go ahead.
William, how do you feel about innovative tax solutions and how we should get out of $37 trillion of debt as a country? What novel things can we do? William. I'm asking you, William, what sort of innovative ways can we get out of $37 trillion worth of debt?
And I think if we have to change the tax code systems. But two, we need to quit wasteful spending. And wasteful spending is not just money to trade or Israel or China or wherever we send money to. Wasteful spending is when we spend money
One more minute.
on anybody else.
One more minute. I'm watching the time. I got a clock here.
It doesn't help the American people. So we need to quit that type of wasteful spending.
Oh, you look beautiful.
Wasteful spending in the healthcare system. There's a lot of wasteful spending.
I love you too.
Where I go to the doctor, and my doctor told me insurance $75 or $85.
and he only gets $85. You're somewhere in the system not working. So if we change the tax code system so that it was better for the American people, for small businesses, that would help a whole lot. If we just have a balanced budget every year from the federal government, that would work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give it a
Sure.
look.
And I guess if there's segues into healthcare, if you want to talk about healthcare for a little bit, anyone else want to mention anything about economic policies?
Yeah, I got something here. There's certain things that aren't up for debate. You know, numbers are numbers. The fact of the matter is that 57% of our national debt since the turn of the century comes from the Bush tax cuts and the first set of Trump tax cuts. Not up for debate. That's 57%. 33% of the debt comes from the 2008 mortgage crisis and COVID. Okay, so that's 90% of the debt. We're talking about social programs causing debt in our deficit. That's the equivalency of the skin on your potato at dinner, is what that is. If you look at the whole gambit of this, now you add the second Trump tax cuts, which means in 5 years, over 70% of our debt is from those three tax cuts. So you have to come up with a solution, right? We've got three. Part of our 13 strikes of strength. The first is the CEO salary cap, going back to 1985. Everybody loves Reagan so much, so we're going to go back to 1985 with this. The CEO of a company cannot make more than 150 times the rate of their average employee. That's one. The second
as a capitalist sort of
yes.
policy, I think.
I don't care. The second thing is the Reagan Redux Act is what we're going to do. They love Reagan so much. Again, going back to 1985, President Reagan's second term, the corporate tax rate was 26%. Now it's 19%. The GOP wants to roll it back to 15%. So we're going to go back to where it was during Reagan's second term at 26%. And the last thing, we're calling it our Triple E program, the ending for exceptions for elitism. I know Elon's going to love this one. Okay, this one is all about stocks. When you, like Elon Musk, is $1 trillion stock package that they're trying to roll out as non-income. This is where you really have to drop the hammer. You have to be nuanced with it. So I'm okay if you get stock options up to $1 million. I'll grant you that. That's capitalism. I'll give you up to $1 million. However, after that, let me finish. After $1 million, there's a 20% rate that's going to kick in for every dollar over $1 million. You get over $5 million, it goes up to 35%. You get over $10 million, it goes up to 50%. So, and this is, well, those are non-recognized gains. It's when it's vested. You're going to pay a fee when your stock is invested. It's the only way to make this work. So when you look at that Elon Musk's $1 trillion stock package that he would be getting would be about $330 billion he would have to pay in taxes of that. The only way to do it is to become elected and write that into law. It's the only way it works.
Okay, don't let you go. Hold on. How come we lost the two female candidates?
I don't know. I think they had one that she had to go, or they just waved and left. I didn't know. I didn't catch what happened.
All right, because guys, I believe we need to respect everybody. And Jane, you need to respect everybody. Every one of these candidates up there are eligible to run for Congress. What makes them most eligible is they're not politicians. Okay, so James needs to be respected. And I hope that those 2 million left because of what people are saying. You guys apologize for that.
Well, I apologize. If I missed something in the chat, I wasn't really watching it. I'm trying to keep it. You know, if something went down, it should have been. That's my fault. I take ownership of that one.
No, it was Jamesy in the comments. He was being on.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I think the other two had to get going with their days. It's 12:30 on Sunday.
Oh yeah, we made it for like a whole hour. So I probably have to run 2 here. So final thoughts. We can start with Leon. Final thoughts.
Yes, this graph I've got behind me shows the distribution of wealth in America. About half has 2.3%. So you see this line all the way down here at the bottom, right here. Yep, that's where all of us are. Unless you are a multi-millionaire, you are in that bottom line that you can't even see right there.
That's where all of us are. And so where does the debt come from? It comes from these cunts. Right here, the billionaire class. So I'm somebody that says the billionaire class does not deserve the right to exist. The second you have $999,999.99, every penny after that gets taxed. That's it. Game over. You won the game of capitalism. Congrats. Now you can pay back into society.
Mr. Hart, your final thoughts for?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that
It's getting over right now.
I mean, everybody involved.
It's getting over right now. So.
Not worried.
You know, it's democracy in action, right? Open discussions. There's going to be some things we agree on. There's going to be some things we disagree on, and that's the beauty of our system. Unlike any other system on the planet, it still works. It's just that we, as a party, need to do a better job of educating the electorate of what our plan is, why they are hurting, why they are suffering, why they are struggling, and how voting in a certain way impacts them. If I leave any message with this, it's the importance not only of the House races, but of the Senate races in 2026. Because if we do not find a way to throw up a guard wall in the Senate, then in the next 3 years, Clarence Thomas is going to retire, Samuel Alito is going to retire, and Donald Trump will appoint a 28-year-old and 29-year-old right-wing radical Republican, and you're going to lose the Supreme Court for the next quarter century.
Yeah.
So if I leave with any message today that didn't get addressed or we didn't talk about, and it shouldn't be talked about because it's not one of the major topics, that's one thing I wanted to bring to everybody's attention in that message. That is the line in the sand. It's not even a line in the sand, it's a border in the sand of the importance of what we're going to experience. Ready for this? Ladies and gentlemen, 415 days.
Yep. And then Anthony, your final thoughts.
I just want to say that we need to, something needs to be done. I feel at this point we're beyond protesting. We've had that our entire lives. Everybody up here has seen protests. Most of the shifts from that the parties do take up and do are from protests, not actually party politics from our point of view. So it's at the point where we're almost, personally, I feel that we're almost beyond voting. That's the point where we're at.
Dangerous spot to be in, though, right?
Yes, very.
Yeah.
Exactly. We want to reach the just here. I mean, like one of the candidates was saying, the disconnect here. We have people buying or being given multi-million-dollar airplanes, $400,000 airplanes. We also have some of our candidates live on Anna Marie Island. That's not the bottom half. There's a disconnect there. Our opponent, a multimillionaire, bought a $3.8 million yacht in 2017. We haven't forgotten that, and we hope the voters don't forget that either.
And then last thoughts go to you, William, to close up here for the day.
So, I would say not one of us have the right solution. Okay? But if we all come together and we talk about what our concepts are and we're willing to compromise, I believe it's the best solution. So that's my whole goal, is to find a group of people that has different concepts. It takes social security, it takes healthcare, it takes immigration, it takes all these issues. Because no one person has the right answer. No one party has the right answer. But if we can come together and get into Congress and we agree, sit down, talk, and say what's the best part about here in the end, or what's the best part about Jersey for Anthony, and we'll take those ideas and put them together, then we come up with the best solution. And that's what we really need in Congress. Not the bread, not the food. Americans who said, I will work with everybody to come up with that solution.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I need to push back on that a little bit because there is the right answer. The right answer is healthcare.
Before you to end town hall here and say thank you for your opinions and being respectful and mindful, I apologize to the two ladies who are on the panel. If I missed something or did not catch anything, of course, welcome them back anytime they want to come back. And thanks everyone for your opinions. This sort of ends town hall, and so we can go to open forum now and go back to William reigns supreme.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Wilby.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Seth.
I thought it was going to. So let's see what else get around. Now you have Jamesy down here in the column. Do you want people up there just want to have a conversation, William, or?
What conversation?
Well, Jamesy says he wants to talk about. He's been asking up for a while, I think. Just participating in the debates. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'll tell you what, on Sunday mornings, I don't want to, if you're not one of the invited guests or running for office, I don't want to start where we invite people up because it has run into problems.
Okay.
So, otherwise, if it was on any other day, but right now, I wouldn't have a problem. This is designed for town hall meetings, and I want to keep it that way.
I don't know. I just feel like we're at the precipice right now between the parties. They were so eager to just nip at each other after Charlie Kirk, and it just, I don't know. I've never seen it happen like so fast where a president would chime in on something like that. It just, I don't know. It blew my mind that it's happening so fast, and it just seems like things are changing. The temperature has changed.
And it's a physical. When people see it, it's psychological too. When you see that every flag is at half staff for not for a congressman or a military member, but now for citizens that across the nation, that we're just gonna. I mean, people pass every day. I'm not saying it's any less important, but someone said that he was involved in hate and hate found him is what some of our constituents were saying. But I thought that was odd that they did that here in Florida with Governor Hulk Hogan. Not a governor. I'm thinking of Governor Jesse Ventura. Hulk Hogan lowering the flag for him. I mean, what did he do? You know, and now for Kirk as well. What did he do? These were divisive people. Unless we're not doing the freedom anymore, we're going to do North Korea now.
Well, what really blew my mind about the whole thing. The whole thing is this. I don't know if you've seen the website where they're doxing people that are, you know, if you say something bad about Charlie Kirk, they're doxing you. They're putting your name and who you work for on a website. And I thought, oh, that just changes the flavor of the whole thing. It really does speak to fascism. I mean, if you're going to start threatening people's livelihoods over their political opinions, I don't know, it just changes the whole dynamic of the whole thing. People are going to be afraid to say what they truly believe.
And as like Elian said, the response from one side is a strong. It reminds me of an episode of Big Bang Theory where Sheldon, for those of you that know that, Sheldon was said he would pen a strongly worded letter to somebody that that's what they're doing. They can obviously, and Seth, you may know this, we can use a discharge petition to force things through. We do need about 6 people from the other side. But it seems like there is some leeway there, and they're not utilizing that tool that is there for whoever the minority party is at the time to force things through. They're just sitting on the sideline, doing filibusters, penning strong words, and we're at a point now where something more needs to be a more forceful action is necessary here.
Yeah, I know, but that scares me. Like, what is that more forceful action that's going to happen?
Exactly. I know, and I feel like we're almost, or maybe we are at that point now where, again, because this isn't something new. This has happened before in our history as a nation. Unlawfulness and felonies did occur, and that brought about change. But maybe we're there now.
I mean, really, has it ever been to a point where people were afraid that they would lose their jobs, their political opinion, so they didn't say what they wanted? Like, I have people that I talked to on TikTok who went through their TikTok posts and started taking things down. Like, I don't want to get.
I have to roll.
We got to wrap it up. I'm stealing him.
So.
Thanks, everyone.
Did the boss speak yesterday?
Yes, she did. It is her time.
Yes. All right. Off we go. I'm not mad at you. No. That was plenty of time. I said, it was a good live, and we're all done. We're all done.
Tell them we're going to go get group
Wrap it up.
Go on to the beach.
Yeah.
Watch the sunset on the beach. Go see my family.
Okay. Mom called too.